17. Had an argument. Deputy Sub-Administrator Kondo, I found some delicious sweets in town and bought a bunch. Would you like one? As Saikaira went about his work as usual, one of his subordinates in the accounting department spoke to him. Looking up, he saw a plump young man whose official uniform was stretched tight, holding out a paper box with brown, round sweets inside. They were too flat and looked too hard to call bread. His first impression was that they resembled sweet rolls. He didn't particularly love sweets, but he figured it might be nice for a change and reached for one, only for Norbert to stop him. No way. You can't give Seisen food or drinks. Don't you know the Indirect commander told us that? Huh. Please do not feed. A memory flashed through Saikaira's mind. A sign stuck on a doghouse along his elementary school route. Am I a dog? What's with that look? That evening, at the restaurant he'd been escorted to after work, Aresh, sitting across from him while they ate, furrowed his brows and glared. No, it's nothing. He said that, but he couldn't shake the questions. How far did Aresh's influence reach? How far did he intend to protect Saikaira, and how widely had he spread that instruction? Aresh's protection, given his status, was appreciated, but it also invited jealousy and could affect work. And without understanding Aresh's true intentions, Saikaira didn't know how to react. Fine. More importantly, how are you feeling? Asked while cutting into a fillet of pan-seared white fish. Aresh really was far more meddlesome than his appearance suggested. Thanks to you, my working hours have been shortened, and I'm doing extremely well. Looks like you've got enough energy to be sarcastic. Having someone manage Saikaira's magic element poisoning and magic intoxication, given he couldn't use medicine or magic casually, was helpful. But being confined to 8 hours with a 2-hour break, only 6 hours of actual work, and a strict no overtime rule meant he couldn't make progress. He had mountains of work he wanted to do, and other departments, especially the man in front of him, interfered terribly. Not sarcasm at all. But I'm new here, and I've been given a position. I still don't understand many things that are common knowledge in this country. And even if I want to learn, there are many documents that can't be taken out, so there's no way I can keep up within working hours. Even as he denied it, Saikaira tried to gently convey that he wanted the restrictions eased at least a little, but Aresh only furrowed his brow again. Why do you try to do everything yourself? You have a title. If there's work you don't understand, pass it down. At Aresh's words, this time Saikaira tilted his head. Isn't it precisely because I have a title that I need to understand everything? Saikaira's personal belief was that someone at the top must be able to do not only the top-level work, but everything. Besides, most of what Saikaira was doing was outside normal duties. It just happened to save the country's finances as a result. It didn't feel right to make others do it, and in the first place, it was faster to do it himself than to spend time explaining. Aresh set his fork down with a clink. I have my deputy commander handle all the administrative chores for the nights, and it causes no problems. Hearing that, Saikaira finally understood. That was why, even after seeing Aresh so often, the topic of budget requests never came up. Then what does the Indirect commander usually do? I process documents only the commander can approve and attend high-level meetings. Lately, I've also been dragged into the Saintess's education. That isn't daily work, and it's really the bare minimum, Saikaira thought, and his eyebrow twitched. And the knights function with only that? I'm told there's no issue. In the first place, the reason I was made commander of the 3rd Knights was due to demands from those around me. There's no need for more work than that. Aresh stated it flatly. Saikaira was reminded again. Right, this man was a genius noble born into a ducal house. I see, he was the perfect standard-bearer. And if he were assigned to another post, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say the 3rd Knight's superiority would wobble. I see. Wait, don't just accept it on your own. What do you mean, I see? Nothing. I simply reaffirmed the difference in our positions and values. In the first place, they were in another world and under a kingdom system. Of course they wouldn't understand each other. Saikaira reached that conclusion and tried to change the subject, but Aresh wasn't satisfied. Position aside, what do you mean by difference in values? Nothing. I doubt a noble commander like you could understand the values of a lowly salaryman from another world. He tried to muddy it with tea, but Aresh persisted. Speak. What is this obsession of yours with labor? Obsession? It's just corporate conditioning baked into me, he thought. What a dramatic way to put it. But Aresh kept going. It is obsession. Working alone to the point of taking medicine despite knowing it could kill you. Your behavior is that of a fanatic. In Saikara's world, it was normal to chug energy drinks to power through work, or to get in 4 drip during break and go right back even with a fever. But here, the tonic was practically poison for him now. Even so, its effectiveness was incredible, so his hand kept reaching for it. I'm not religious. You behave exactly like a fanatic. Then why do you work to that extent? You have money, don't you? Being asked like this again made it difficult to answer. In his world, labor was a citizen's duty. And beyond that, working had become common sense, and for Saikara, it was tied to peace of mind. Because there's work to be done. No, there isn't. I've heard you're always inventing work that doesn't exist and volunteering to do it yourself. He tried to imitate a famous mountaineer quote, but he got scolded for it. For a moment he wondered how the Third Knight's commander knew what happened in accounting, but a certain flirty young man's image immediately floated through his mind. Still, work that doesn't exist was not something he could let slide. Even if you say that this country's finances were in a dire state, there was a need to reevaluate the entire system from the ground up and improve it. The finances were in dire straits? I've never heard anything like that. That was because the Third Knights received a budget favored nearly as much as royalty. And on top of that, all the details were tossed to subordinates. Of course he wouldn't know. Isn't it simply because you, Commander Indirak, can afford to be indifferent to finances? What did you say? Being called a fanatic by someone this persistent. Saikara let a barb slip out without thinking. No, bad. He immediately voiced an apology. Even as Saikara apologized with a light smile, the furrow in Aresh's brow didn't fade. He snorted once and opened his mouth. I'll tell you this, be aware that your work attitude also has a bad influence on those around you. A bad influence? At the very least, exposing the fact that the Saintis budget had been embezzled and forcing a restructuring and reallocation of future funds seemed like a good influence for the country. If a titled person takes the lead in overtime, subordinates will be confused and the atmosphere will sour. Ugh. It was true. After Saikara got his title, he'd felt uncertain looks when he arrived early and stayed late. But he hadn't asked for the title in the first place. And on top of that, you keep your new system to yourself. If you have no intention of training assistants or successors, what do you plan to do after you're gone? GGH. In his old world, everyone worked like this, and the system was already established. Many specifications were understood implicitly, so it wasn't a problem. But this was a different world. Numbers might be universal, but the foundation itself was different. And it was true that Saikara had tried to avoid that extra effort. Even so, it was hard to accept being lectured by Aresh, who barely worked at all. But the person in front of him was his savior, a noble, and a superior officer. Forcibly swallowing the fog in his chest, Saikara put all his strength into forming a smile. I'll take that under advisement. You have no intention of doing so. This time, Saikara almost let out a tongue click at the sheer persistence.